Joining me now, Fox News Decision Desk Director Arnon Mishkin, along with Rasmussen Report founder Scott Rasmussen. Arnon, I've got to start with you. Fox News poll, latest, I guess the last poll is out this morning. Hillary Clinton up 4 in a four-way race. Was that the number?
That is the number. Okay. Clinton 48, Trump 44.
But it was but interesting enough, even though her number went up a little bit in this four-way race, the actual electoral vote actually got a little lower for her, right?
Our electoral map, we moved a couple of states that had looked like lean Clinton. We'd moved them to toss-up right now. They're absolutely right. The good news for Hillary Clinton today is for the first time I've seen her number go up. All throughout this campaign, no matter how badly Trump had performed or any kind of problems he had, her number always stayed around 45. Now it's going up. And to me, that's a good sign for her. The bad sign is Democrats waste a lot of vote because they run up the score in California, New York, Illinois, and those places, millions. In fact, we did a rough calculation yesterday, and roughly 3 percentage points of a margin is wasted in the running up the score in the easy states for the Democrats. So a 4-point race could be an electoral college photo finish.
By the way, was the Comey announcement included in the Fox poll?
The Comey announcement came yesterday, and the last day of polling was in the afternoon, so we didn't really cover that.
Scott, almost everyone agrees the real toss-ups, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Florida. There's some other names perhaps floating around in the mix, but those 3 names seem to be standing out amongst all pollsters.
That's right, but here's the story. Even if Donald Trump wins those 3 toss-ups, he wins Florida, which he absolutely has to, he wins North Carolina, which Mitt Romney won, he wins New Hampshire, he's still about 11 electoral votes short. And the question is, where does he make those votes up? You'd have to look to the Rust Belt areas, perhaps a Michigan, Pennsylvania, or he was even in Minnesota today. Those states haven't gone Republican in a long time. You look out west, there's some other tough states. That's the challenge for Donald Trump.
Of the Rust Belt states, it looks like it's pretty clear, guys, he's going to get Ohio.
Yes.
So no one talks about that anymore. Which one would be the most likely? I mean, it feels like maybe Michigan for a couple of reasons. And first of all, there was the big surprise. Hillary took that big defeat in the primaries. And then it just feels like Trump obviously has spent a lot of time there. He's put a lot of capital there. And it feels like he's got a kinship with some of those voters.
He seems to be connecting because this is a place where voters feel they've been left behind by politicians of both parties. That's his sweet spot. Also, Hillary Clinton going back to Detroit a couple of times, concerned about the African-American turnout. If you really are rooting for Donald Trump, the best news in all of those Midwestern states actually came from Iowa a couple of days ago. The Des Moines Register poll showed a big lead for Donald Trump in Iowa, but the telling detail was the youth vote was even lower than expected, and it was a very modest margin for Hillary Clinton. Their conclusion was the Bernie Sanders voters were staying home. If that happens in a place like Michigan with African-American turnout down and with a big white working class vote, there could be a surprise.
Arnon, the potential surprises that you see?
I think the biggest potential surprise is Michigan. I've said all along that the best polling this year is being conducted by the Clinton campaign because they're just spending $20, $30 million on polling. And the fact that they decided not just to send Hillary there, but the president there, suggests to me that they're looking that's looking shakier than it should.
Early voting has been enormous. Listen, we see the final numbers in North Carolina. We know I saw the last day of early voting in North Carolina was the biggest turnout for black voters. Maybe something is resonating there. Florida is interesting because you have this huge surge in Hispanics, and yet the margin isn't as big for the Democrats as it was in 2012. Is that bad news for them, Arnon?
You know, historically, or the last 2 election cycles, the Democrats banked a huge lead in the early vote in Florida. And so the fact that, according to the Quinnipiac poll, the margin amongst early voters is more like -4 for the Republicans, that's bad news for the Democrats.
Real quick, the turnout. The turnout machine. Everyone's talked about the turnout machine. If it's a 1 or 2 percentage point race going into the finals, that turnout machine will make the difference for the Democrats. Is that overblown, particularly compared to the enthusiasm that Donald Trump has enjoyed?
They do balance each other out a little bit. A turnout machine might get you an extra point. That's all it's going to be. if the race is really close. Yeah, it's not as big a deal as as people want to believe it is, especially the people who are selling the turnout services. But it can make a difference if the race is as close as we're talking about in a couple of these key states.
What's the deal then, guys? Why does it feel today that the Democrats are walking around a little cockier than they were on Friday? I mean, is it only the Comey thing, or?
Oh, I think it's a Comey thing and it's a poll thing, and that may be, in fact, the really worst news for Hillary Clinton, because I've always said if people think Clinton is going to win, then those who are a little uncomfortable with her won't show up, and folks, if they're sure Clinton's going to win and they're a little undecided about Trump, won't think about all the questions about Trump's qualifications.
And there's also, in the Fox poll, there's 8% of people who are not committed to either major party candidate. Some of those are going to go into the polls tomorrow saying they're a Johnson voter or a Stein voter, undecided, and pull the lever for one of the two major party candidates. That could be determining by what they expect is happening in the race.
Stein at 2. I mean, she's going to have less than 1%, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yes. So who gets that 1 extra percent? They split it?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it sounds like we're talking razor margins here, guys. All right, thank you both very much.